Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great start to your Wednesday. This week is flying by already. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds. Make sure everything is populated and updated and showing up properly. Let's see what we got. We are live on Rumble, YouTube. Good morning. Live on X. Always like checking X. X usually has actually been the most consistent on all of these. So we are live on X. Good morning, X. Not whoever is watching over there. I can't see comments from X, but shout out to X. And I also can't see numbers. So we are live on Facebook. Good morning, Facebook. My Facebook page is Facebook/Work on Your Game University. Facebook/Work on Your Game University. We are live on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, it doesn't show up to date, but we are live on LinkedIn. We are live on Instagram. Good morning. And we are live on TikTok. My TikTok is Work on Your Game. Instagram is at Dre Baldwin. My names are different on damn near every platform. But if you just look me up, just look up my name, Dre Baldwin. Usually I can be found. So let me see if I can find myself on TikTok. So I'm just searching right now, DuckDuckGo, Dre Baldwin TikTok, and see if anything comes up. And yes, it does come up. So if you just type in Dre Baldwin TikTok, it does come up. And I'm looking for something there. So okay.
So I have no idea what.
All right. So on TikTok, if you just search Dre Baldwin TikTok, it does come up. It says Dre Baldwin at Work on Your Game TikTok. They got old information here. 753 followers. I got a lot more than that now. These days, I have 17,000 followers, but good enough. They still find me. And over on IG, good morning, Bella. Tell me your locations as y'all checking in. Tell me your locations. Tell me your locations as you are checking in. Where you checking in from? Bella on IG, Vancouver, Washington here. I am on TikTok. I am live on TikTok. We beat the suspension was appealed and we won the appeal. So we did beat that. So y'all can, I am active on TikTok here today. If I'm ever not active on TikTok, but the live stream is going, that's probably because I was suspended again. But hopefully that doesn't happen again. As y'all are coming in again, shout yourselves out. And we're going to get started in a moment. Let's see over on TikTok. Unique Pink, good morning. Thank you for liking the live, everybody. Keep liking the live. Let's load up the likes early. Marky Man, good morning. Carol Ann Collins from Newburgh, New York, good morning. Traditional All Day, good morning. Oklahoma is in the building. Okie Girl 17, shout out to Oklahoma. Ron Johnson from Lima, Ohio, shout out to Ohio. Trucker J driving through Mississippi. Shout out to the truckers out there driving through Mississippi. Hope y'all make your adjustments because you know they're coming. You know they're coming for you all's jobs right now with the AI trucks. Washington State is in the building. Serenity, shout out to Washington State. I have been there. A little bit too much precipitation for me, but it is a beautiful to look at. I will say that. Everybody tap the screen here as y'all are coming in. Tap the screen as y'all are coming in, and let me see. Yeah. Okay. So tap the screen as y'all coming in. Let's get the likes up. 11 Bravo checking in from South Carolina. Kenneth Young checking in from Dallas. Shout out to Dallas. I was just listening to this PBS documentary this morning that wasn't about Dallas. It was about housing. And they used some examples from people in Dallas and the suburbs around Dallas and how the housing situation is actually deeper than it looks. D said, God bless the stock market. What happened to it? Is it up or down? Trucker said that would be a good topic to talk about. No, not yet. Not yet. Charleston, South Carolina is in the building. Shout out to A.B. Walker. So the topic here today, we're going to talk about Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It's actually called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It did pass. For those of you who don't know, it passed, I believe, on July the 3rd. And then President Donald Trump signed it on July the 4th. So this bill has passed. We talked about this, I think, at least twice in the past, what this whole bill was, what was going to be in it. A bunch of people were strongly against it. Some people were strongly for it. And for the most part, from what I heard from the journalists out there who really follow D.C. politics closely, they said this one pretty much has to pass. For whatever reasons, it has to pass. And it did pass. And we know that Trump, or the Republicans, let's say, have a majority right now in Congress. So if they wanted this to pass, they could pretty much get it to pass. Unless enough people on the political right went rogue and went against it, but there were not enough who went rogue and went against it. And when I say go rogue, meaning going against what the party wants to do, it's pretty much how politics work. And this is the reason why the bill passed. So this long promised immigration and border security bill, the one that he's called his big, beautiful bill, just passed through both the House and the Senate. It dramatically expands border enforcement measures, for those of you who don't know. And the good thing is, I don't know how much border enforcement expansion they need, because the immigration has gone down significantly and sharply ever since the Trump administration came in, because they just stopped letting people in, which is pretty much what the Biden administration was doing. So they just started actually enforcing the rules down there. And all of a sudden, their immigration is down. What a novel idea. So it expands border enforcement measures. It adds funding for wall construction. So Trump is still doing this. They're actually literally going to build a wall. So they're going to keep doing that. It reinstates the Remain in Mexico policy, which is basically kicking people out or keeping people in Mexico. They try to come across from Mexico, which is what the border is all about. It restricts pathways to asylum, which is a big thing in America now, that a lot of times when people come over here, they claim asylum. And by claiming asylum, it's basically pulling on the heartstrings of the United States by saying, hey, I'm facing some type of hardship where I'm from. So I'm trying to get asylum here in America. And long story short, this is what asylum means. If we have to put it in simple terms, is that because things are so bad where you come from, you were trying to go to a different place, and because it's bad over there, you can't send me back. So just let me stay here. If I had to put it in simple terms, that's what asylum means. So what this bill does is it restricts pathways to asylum. In other words, it restricts how many different reasons or how many different ways anyone can claim asylum as a reason why they should be allowed to stay in the United States. And it accelerates the deportation timelines. So if someone is in this country, but they're not from this country, and whatever their status is, they've done something that the United States government deems is a deportable thing. Maybe that's because you didn't have proper documentation. Maybe you committed a crime. It could be a myriad of things. If you are tagged as someone who needs to be deported, what this bill does is it speeds up the process. So instead of it taking a month for you to get deported, you might get deported in a week. So it's accelerating the entire process, whether that's the court dates or how long you got to sit in a place like Alligator Alcatraz or some ICE detention center. They just get you out of here through the deportation process. The bill also includes provisions for cutting federal funding to sanctuary cities. So a sanctuary city, for those who don't know what that is, those are the cities that some governors and I guess mayors of certain cities and states. It has to be mayors, but governors probably, supported this, said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be, when the United States government and ICE, they start saying, hey, these people who are here without proper documentation, they arrive in this country. Some states and some governors and some cities are saying, no, they can't come here. You don't have proper documentation. We're going to call ICE. We're going to report you. We're going to kick you out. You can't stay. And there are other cities, because this is all the way the political game works. If you're on the political left, they claim that they will be sanctuary cities. Will be a city where if you don't have proper documentation yet, or you have quote unquote legal status, and these red states and red cities don't like you, you can come to our place. We will be a sanctuary for you. You can come here. We will at least let you stay here. Now, what situation we're going to put you in is a different story, but you can at least come stay here. So you may remember that New York City, under Mayor Eric Adams, who is still the mayor for now, he was calling New York a sanctuary city, and it sounded good. These all sounded like great ideas when they were calling themselves sanctuary cities. And there was a lot of cities up in the northern half of America saying that they would be sanctuary cities, because it sounded like a great idea to just claim this, that you're going to be a sanctuary city when you don't have to actually do anything. But what they didn't anticipate was that the governor of Texas, Governor Abbott, was actually going to start putting these individuals who came across the border during the Biden administration so freely, he would put them on buses and actually ship them to the cities that said they would be sanctuary cities. And then these people actually started arriving in those cities. And that's when real life started to differ from the lab tests. And the sanctuary city ideas would sound good when you're just talking about it. It became a whole different story when you had to actually do it. And that's a whole other story that we've talked about in the past, by the way. So if you missed that, go find it on my YouTube channel. The link is in the profile. Link is in my profile on TikTok. And what it does is it restricts, another thing it does is it cuts federal funding to sanctuary cities and enhances surveillance infrastructure. Thank you, Irma, for the gift, at major entry points. So federal funding goes to, every city gets federal funding on some level and for whatever reason. What this new bill does is it, by law, restricts the funding that a city would receive if it is calling itself a sanctuary city or it is behaving as a sanctuary city. In other words, it's going to penalize you if you are harboring, helping, or in any way getting in the way of the United States government and ICE and immigration enforcement doing their job of keeping people who don't have proper documentation and who are not here with proper paperwork, getting them out. If you're doing anything to slow us down, we're going to cut money that goes to your city. And when you hit them where it hurts, and the government is all about the money, hit them where it hurts, this may affect people's behavior. So basically, this big, beautiful bill, actually, let me finish, and it enhances surveillance infrastructure at major entry points. In other words, that's usually the southern border. They have more surveillance now. There's more money for more surveillance, so they can better see who's doing what, where, and when they're doing it. So it's easier to catch people who are trying to come across or smuggle others across the border. This legislation, ladies and gentlemen, if I had to just put everything that I just said into a simple phrase, everything Trump said he was going to do, he's doing it. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying it's a thing. Everything he said he was going to do, he's doing it. That's what this bill is. All the Trump policies, all of, if you want to call it Project 2025, whatever Trump said he was going to do, this bill is basically etching a lot of those things in stone. And he turns it into a law. So this legislation marks a massive shift toward more Trump-era immigration policy. I think we've talked about that enough that I think all of you understand and agree. Whether you like it or not is not the question, but do you agree this is what he's doing? Yes, it is what he's doing. And its passage signals a clear shift in power dynamics. Now, the story here isn't just the bill. It's the fact that Trump's policy vision is now carrying legislative weight because, again, he made this into a law. And this is where we are. So let me introduce myself first. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete. I'm the author of several books. I own a company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here at Work on Your Game is we weaponize the skills of discipline and structure. We create a process and a system that helps high-level performers, ambitious individuals, those of you who consider yourselves part of the top 2%, or you would like to be part of the top 2%, to perform, execute, and produce results on a consistent and predictable basis. You can learn more about working with us by going to the links in my bio or profile on whatever app you're on right now. Just so you all know, I am streaming to several different apps at the same time right now. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and X all at the same time. So I'm streaming in 7 different places right now. So this is why you may see me looking at different cameras while I'm speaking. And if I happen to get kicked off or you lose the connection on any one of these apps, or any one of these apps is acting up on any particular day, just jump over to one of the other ones. My largest audience when I do live streams, at least from the ones I can see the numbers. I can't see the numbers on all the apps. LinkedIn, I can't see the numbers. Facebook, I could see it, but I'm not looking at Facebook right now. I'm looking at Rumble Studio on YouTube. X, I can't see the number. The largest audience is usually on TikTok. So when I start answering questions, usually the most comments are coming through on TikTok. But if you leave comments on other apps, I will see it and I will address it. As a matter of fact, there'll be less traffic if you leave in another place. But we will get to the comments in about 23 minutes. Over here at Work On Your Game, I told you we're about discipline and structure. So everything is on the clock. We operate by the clock. As you can see, we have 23 minutes and 40 seconds for me to get through the content. When I get done with the content, if it takes me that long, I may take less time. Then we're going to get into the comments, and we take about 45 minutes to get to the comments. And then at 9:30 on the dot, no later, we will be finished. Everybody got it? So that's the process. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Right now is 8:21 a.m. By the way, those of you who don't know, I do these live streams Monday through Friday starting at 8 a.m. Eastern. So if you want to catch the next one, just set your timer, set your clock, set your alarms. So let's get into these points. And I'm going to take questions and comments at the end in about 23 minutes. So this whole bill was able to pass through both chambers of commerce. For those of you who don't understand how that works, I mean Congress. I say Commerce, Congress. So you got the House of Representatives, which is a big group. And then you got the Senate, which is 50 people. Senate is 2 people, 2 senators representing each state. So each of the 50 states has 2 senators, is 100 people total. And then the other 400 plus members of Congress are representatives, and that's based on the number of people in your state. So California, for example, has a lot more representatives than the state of Rhode Island. And you just get elected. All these people make up what we call Congress. The bill starts in Congress. They have to go back and forth and make adjustments to the bill. Once they have a bill that everyone says, all right, this is the bill, then it has to be voted on by the Senate, has to be voted on by the House of Representatives. If it gets enough votes on both sides, then it goes to the president's desk, and the president can decide to either veto the bill, which is saying, no, I don't like this bill, go make changes, go adjust this, adjust that. He sends it back to Congress to go fix it, or he can sign the bill. And if the president signs a bill, that bill becomes the law. That's the way it works in the United States of America. Now, you will wonder, why would Donald Trump veto a bill when he's the one who was pretty much pushing it all along? That's because sometimes, not like right now, but sometimes the balance of power in Congress is not the same as who is running the executive branch. So there was a time during Barack Obama's presidency, if you remember, that Barack Obama is a Democrat, but Congress was largely Republican. So Congress had control over both houses. The Republicans had control over both houses of Congress. So if the Senate is majority Republican and the House of Representatives is majority Republican, but the president is Democrat, then you get this stalemate where a lot of things, it's hard to get things done because the Republicans decided, and there was a time during Obama's presidency, this is exactly what happened. The Republicans decided, we're not going to let President Obama get anything else done. We're not going to let him create any new laws, and anything he tries to do, we're basically going to stop it, and we're not going to let it go anywhere. And the Republicans binded together, and hand in hand, they locked arms, and they stopped him from doing anything. Because, again, there was Democrat in the executive branch, but it was Republican in Congress. And sometimes it can be, in Congress, it can be a balance. There can be Democrat-led Senate, but Republican House of Representatives. Right now, the Republicans have control over all of it. So Donald Trump is ostensibly a Republican. He's not really a Republican, but he's on the Republican side. And Congress is majority Republican, and the Senate is Republican. So if Donald Trump wants to get a bill passed, you could say he could pretty much get it passed. It's not that simple, because even this one, the big, beautiful bill, there was a whole lot of back and forth, even from Republicans who were pushing back on things he was saying. But he was able to get this one pushed through because his grip on the Republican Party is pretty strong. I think everybody can agree with that. Even if you don't like the fact he has a grip, you can agree he has a grip. And this is the reason why MAGA is MAGA. MAGA is really like its own party. It's not really Republican, and it's damn sure not Democrat. MAGA is kind of his own entity. And Donald, those of you wondering, as we talked about this, and many of you have made this comment, and I agree, Elon Musk alluded to it a couple of weeks ago, that this binary system we have in the United States government, Democrat and Republican, is one that needs to be broken up so that we have more options and it's not just this binary choice every time. Because sometimes in elections, you don't like either one of the candidates. You don't like the Democrat or the Republican, but there's no realistic way to get any third party candidate to win. And people say we need to break up the system so we can have other independent parties. Elon Musk threw out this idea of the American Party, which sounds good on paper, Elon. The problem is, who's going to be the face of the party? He doesn't have an answer. It damn sure ain't going to be Elon Musk. So the American Party sounds like a good idea, but you need a leader. You need a galvanizing leader. Look at the people who've been president this century. George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. That's it. There's only been 4 people in 25 years. And these people all had a galvanizing presence. Not so much on Joe Biden, but Joe Biden's galvanizing presence was go against Donald Trump. So going against Donald Trump has run basically, or Donald Trump period. The 2016, the 2020, and the 2024 elections were all about Donald Trump. Even though Joe Biden won the 2020 election, it was really about Donald Trump. It wasn't about Joe Biden. And all the people who lost, they weren't galvanizing enough. That's why they lost. Al Gore was not galvanizing enough. Who was the guy against then John Kerry? Not good enough as far as galvanizing an audience. Then there was McCain, who was actually pretty good. He just didn't beat Obama. And then there was Romney, who was not good. Then there was Hillary Clinton, who tried, but she was not very good as far as I'm concerned. She had some weight behind her, but Donald Trump was at a little bit too much momentum. Then you had Biden against Trump. And again, Biden's whole campaign was, I'm not Donald Trump, and it worked. Then you had Kamala Harris, not good. So this is the way elections work out. It's not about the policies. Notice I didn't mention anything about policy. This is how you win elections in the United States of America. Donald Trump's MAGA, I said all that to say this. Donald Trump's MAGA is its own party. He is doing it under the heading, the letterhead of the Republican Party, but MAGA is not really Republican. Any of you who are Republicans, lifelong Republicans, Donald Trump is not really going along with the Republican agenda. There's a bunch of Republicans in the government right now who don't really agree with Donald Trump and a lot of the things that he does or says or what he's about, but they really don't have a damn choice because the people who elected them, their constituents, they like Donald Trump. And even though you don't like Donald Trump, you work in the House of Representatives or you're a senator, you kind of go along with what Trump does, because if you go against him, he might decide to set his eyes on you, his target on you, and say, all right, what I'm going to do is get this person primary. I'm going to get them voted out of their spot in Congress. And he's done that to several people. Also, if you go along with it, then your constituents may be happy because they like Donald Trump, even though you don't like him. And your job, lest we forget, Congress people, and I know y'all are not Congress people, but if any of them are watching or any of you know some, let's remember that a Congressperson's job is to do what you want them to do. Their job is not to do what they want to do. Their job is to do what you want them to do because you're the one who voted for them. And they understand that. Well, that's not true. Sometimes they behave as if they understand it. I don't know if they always understand it. That would be questionable, but highly doubtful, actually. But they understand that if they don't go along with what Trump is saying and their constituency likes Trump, then that means they're going to lose their jobs. And most of the people in Congress would not be able to perform. They would not be able to command the salary or the respect or the anything else that they get while working in the government that they outside of the government. They wouldn't get anywhere else. So this is the reason why people who work in government need to keep their job in the government, because otherwise what the hell are they going to do and who the hell are they? Answer is nothing and nobody. So Donald Trump is this third party in American politics that everybody's been pining for. We have it. We got it already. It's called MAGA. You got the Democrats, you got the Republicans, you got MAGA. That's what it is. That's what Donald Trump's is. I don't think that's what Elon was talking about, but this is what we got. Now, critics are calling this one big, beautiful bill unconstitutional. It doesn't make any sense to use that term, but they're using it because it gets people excited. That was unconstitutional. Donald Trump's going against the Constitution. He's going to destroy the Constitution. We've been hearing these things about Donald Trump for 10 years. So they're just going along with it. They're calling it unconstitutional. They're saying it's a human rights violation, and people are trying to draft lawsuits, and this is going to go nowhere. We know it's going to go nowhere, but it's political theater. And is a waste of money. It's usually your taxpayer dollars, by the way, that are getting wasted, in case y'all didn't know. So even if you're not a supporter of Donald Trump, this is important, because I'm sure there's some people listening to me right now who are not supporters and not fans of Donald Trump. Do not get excited when your favorite politician claims that they're going to file a lawsuit or they're going to take Donald Trump or his administration to court to try to block something or stop something, for several reasons. Number one, this is nothing but political theater. Nothing's actually going to happen. They're not going to block or stop anything. They may delay it, but they're not going to stop anything from happening. And secondly, every minute that they spend doing that, number one, they're not doing their job of actually serving you, because filing lawsuits against Donald Trump is not really helping you. They try to make it seem like they're helping you. They're really not. Number one. Number two, so number one, they're not doing their job of serving you because you voted for them. Number two, every minute they spend doing this theater against Donald Trump is a minute that they're on the clock. They're being billed for this, especially the lawyers. They're billing for this. And that money is coming out of money that you paid through your taxes. So your money is paying for this nonsense that's going to do nothing and achieve nothing. That's the problem with it is not that they're doing it. The problem is that it's going to go nowhere. And everybody knows that it's going to go nowhere. But this is all political theater that they do to make it seem like they're working for you. And if they can emotionalize it enough, they get enough constituents. Those are the everyday people, emotional too. And a lot of people substitute their emotional feelings for actual productive and substantial effort. They're not actually doing anything. And this is the reason why a lot of people don't trust Congress. Next to the mainstream media, Congress is the least trusted entity in the United States of America. That is by statistics, by poll. The least trusted entity in the United States of America is the mainstream media. And number two, last on the list, is Congress. People do not trust Congress people because they do a whole lot of this nonsense, these shenanigans that look like they're working, but they're actually doing a whole bunch of nothing. Then they get all excited and they give these fiery speeches and fiery rhetoric on Capitol Hill or in front of cameras. And now you got social media, and this is their whole job when they're not actually doing anything. And their real job is just making you think that they're doing something. And this is the reason why a couple of weeks ago we did an experiment. And I said, name every person in Congress that you can name without Googling. Between all of us who were in the live, we came up with 40 names. You know how many people are in Congress? About 500 more than the number we came up with. We came up with 40 names of people we can name that we know their name. There's 500 other people who we don't even know. Those other 500, those might be the ones who are actually doing the work. The ones whose names we know them because they're on the internet, on social media, telling you what they did. I don't care. You don't need to tell me what you did. You need to actually do something. So anyway, let's continue. This remain in Mexico policy and wall funding. These are two things that Donald Trump came up with from the very beginning, and he is reactivating them, and now he's made it into law. He's calcified this into law. The build a wall thing. Donald Trump said this from the very beginning, we're going to build a wall. He said this in 2016. A lot of his opponents, after he won it and got installed into the presidency in 2017, they said, well, he never built the wall. He was lying about building a wall. Here's the thing you're going to understand about Donald Trump. I've explained this 30 times. I'm going to have to explain another 300 times in the future. Donald Trump speaks in metaphors and images. He is not to be taken literally. You can't take everything Donald Trump says literally. Most of the things that he says are metaphorical. They're not literal. In other words, they're directional. So when Donald Trump says we're going to build a wall, what does he mean? What he means is we're going to enforce our borders. We're going to enforce our immigration policies. And we're not going to allow the border to be so porous, such as just allowing people to come in and not doing anything to stop them or doing anything to deter them. That's what build a wall means. And Donald Trump is really good at speaking in metaphors and in imagery, because if you speak the way that I just explained it, that will go over too many people's heads because it requires thinking and intellectual processing, what I just explained. But when you say build a wall, everybody gets the idea. Right? That's the reason. That's the genius of the way Donald Trump talks. And every politician has to do this, by the way. All the successful ones, they have to do this. You have to speak in images that people can get the point without you spelling it out. Because if you have to spell it out, then that requires people to think. And if you're trying to convince or influence 350 million people and you're challenging them to think, that's a bad idea. You're going to lose. It's bad strategy to challenge people to think when you're trying to talk to masses of people. Now, if you're talking to a select group of smart people, now you can challenge them to think because they can think. But you're talking to 300 million people, you can't challenge people to think. That's a very bad idea. And this is one of the reasons why you get one of the pejoratives that get thrown out about Trump and his supporters. They say, well, these people are not educated. They're not that smart. Donald Trump is speaking to the lowest common denominator of people. Well, if you want to influence 350 million people, you better speak to the lowest common denominator. You try to be smart talking to 350 million people, you will lose. That's the way it works. That doesn't mean everybody who supported Trump is dumb. And also, it doesn't mean that everybody who went against him is smart. And if you're on the political left and you're a staunch anti-Trump person and you are of this belief that the only reason Trump won is because he's speaking to the uneducated people and most people are uneducated, my question to you, I've said this a bunch of times, I'll say it a bunch of times in the future, please keep liking and live, everybody. Let's get up to 30,000 likes. Y'all slowed down on the likes. We were at like 6,000 when I was just doing the introduction. Now we only at 20. Y'all done got complacent. Please like the live. Tap the screen and like the live. I don't want to pull a Kevin Samuels on you folks. Please like the live. Thank you. Keep liking the live. Let's get up to 30,000 likes. So the people on the political left who have this idea that Trump only speaks to the uneducated, my question or challenge back to those people, some of you are listening to me right now, is why didn't the educated people who are allegedly smarter than the Trump supporters, why didn't you just dumb yourself down and talk to those same people? I mean, if you're smarter than somebody, it should be easy for you to manipulate them mentally. You're smarter than them, right? So that means you could easily talk circles around them. Why didn't you just take everything Trump was saying and just beat him at his own game? I mean, it's not like you got to be smart to beat Donald Trump, right? So you could just dumb yourself down. You're already up here intellectually. All you got to do is come down a few levels. You've been here before at some point. You know how to do it, and just beat him at his own game. Reason why those people couldn't do that, and there's a reason why they use this cope, this rationalization that, oh, well, the educated people voted against Trump and the uneducated people voted for him, is because there's no answer to the question. There's no answer to that, because those who want to use this rationalization, you're not as smart as you think you are. Because if you were, you should have won the election. I mean, the whole point in getting an election is to win. You lost. And the reason why the Trump MAGA train went and is going the way that it's going is because Donald Trump knows how to move a mass of people. He is very good at it. He's not the only one. Obama was very good at it. George W. Bush, very good. Bill Clinton, also very good. And those who lost, usually they weren't that good at it. And you often don't hear from them too much again, at least on the big stages, because of it. You're not going to see our former vice president, Ms. Harris. You're not going to see her on this stage again because she's just not very good at persuading a crowd. She doesn't have that skill. She may have other skills, which we ain't going to get into here today, but it ain't that. And this is the reason why, again, send her through a primary and let's see what happens. So moderate Republicans were saying that this bill risks alienating independents and other people, and it could backfire in swing states. I'm not sure that matters anymore. The election's already over. So Trump-backed lawmakers united to push this through. That is true. Lawmakers being Congress, by the way. You hear lawmakers, they're talking about Congress. So Trump-backed lawmakers in Congress, they allegedly are aligned with MAGA. At least they are on this point. And I think a lot of people who are Republican, they align with MAGA on certain points and they don't align on other points. And only the ones who are really stable in their positions are willing to come out and vocally and publicly go against Trump because they know what that means. They go against Trump too hard. If you're on the Republican side, Trump could decide to set his sights on you and try to get you to lose your next election, which again would make you jobless. And what are you going to do? If you've been in Congress the last 20 years, now you don't have a job anymore. What are you going to do? And so this is a question that a lot of politicians have to ask themselves. So anytime y'all see a politician doing something that doesn't seem to make sense, that is only about protecting their job, I'm explaining to you why. This is one reason why. There are many others. So Democrats are calling this bill cruel. They're framing it as something bad and negative, and this is what the Democrats do. And this is a problem that the Democratic Party has had for the last 10 years. And I've said this already, and I'll keep saying it. And over the next 2 years, because by about this time, we'll be well into it by about this time in 2028, when there's going to be another presidential election. The Democratic Party needs to figure this out. So it's 25, so 3 years. But by this time in 2028, we'll already know who the candidates are, the two candidates, and they're already going to be campaigning hard because the Trump thing that happened in Butler, PA was about a year ago, almost to the date. The Democratic Party needs to figure out what they're about, and it can't just be we're against Donald Trump. They've been trying that for 10 years. It worked, quote unquote, worked once with Joe Biden in 2020, and it failed the other two times. And now what? So he isn't going to run again. He's not going to get a third term. That's not happening. Who is the Democratic Party? What is the Democratic Party about? What does the Democratic Party stand for? Who is your leader? Who's going to be your candidate in 2028? And what are they standing on? See, you can't just stand on, well, I'm not this guy, because that guy's going to be gone in 2028. It can't just be we're against this. What are you for? What are you standing for? You got to give people something to go for. The go against worked one time, Joe Biden in 2020. If you even want to consider that working. And there's a lot of questions about what happened in 2020 that we're not going to rehash here. But the other two times, it didn't work. It didn't work with Hillary. It didn't work with Kamala. And it's not working now. We'll see what happens in the midterms, the 2026 midterm elections. A lot of people seem to think that the Democrats are going to take everything back. I'm skeptical. I think it's a little bit too early. I'm skeptical of that happening. And even if it were to happen, all that means is there'll be a lot more stalemating and a lot less things getting done because the Democrats, let's say they took over the House and the Senate in 2026, they can't get any bills passed into law because Donald Trump's not going to sign them. So what? That if they take over, that just means Donald Trump can't do anything else, which maybe people will see as a win. But again, it brings you right back to the same problem. This circular reasoning of a problem is that everything the Democrats have been about for the last 10 years has been whatever Donald Trump says or does, go against that. Okay, we got that. Now he got his second term. He's not running again. Now what? Now who are you? Democratic Party needs to come up with an answer to this question. They need to come up with one quickly. And again, it might help them in 2026, but it's not going to help you in 2028. So they need to figure this out. Now, some say that there may be some backlash from other countries who are affected by the return policies. I strongly doubt that. And some legal challenges may stall implementation. I doubt that as well. This only reinforces Trump's whole campaign. Strong borders, strong country, America first, plain and simple. Again, as I said in the beginning here, Donald Trump is doing everything he told you he was going to do. Whether you agree with it or not is a different story. I'm not asking if you agree. What I will ask of you, I'm not asking if you agree if you like it, but I will ask if you agree on, is Donald Trump doing everything he said he was going to do? Answer is yes, he is. Everything Donald Trump said he was going to do, enforce the borders, America first. We're going to keep the outsiders outside, and anybody who is inside pretending to be an insider, but you're actually an outsider, we're going to find you, we're going to detain you, and we're going to remove you. He's doing all those things. Everything he said he was going to do, he's doing. Now, there's a whole bunch of other things in that bill when it comes to taxes and other things that didn't get as much attention. But all of these things are going into practice. And again, whether you agree with him or not, one thing we can all appreciate, and I'm sure if you're anti-Trump, you probably won't like the fact that I'm saying this, but it is true. We can appreciate that at least you got a politician doing everything they said they were going to do. At least you got an honest politician. Yes, I'm calling Donald Trump honest. I know some of you won't like that one. All right, so now a bunch of you say he lies every time he talks, but every politician lies every time they talk. But in the big picture ideas of what Donald Trump said he was going to do, he's living it. He's living out everything that he told you was coming. He's living it out. And if you're mad about that, well, you're just going to have to be mad. But nobody can say that it's not the truth. So let me set my timer here for. I'm going to set the timer for 48 minutes if we even need this much time, and let's get into the commentary. So if you got a question or comment on anything that I've said, let's get into it. I am checking YouTube, Rumble, X. I can't check X. Facebook and LinkedIn. I don't see anything on these. We got anything on IG? I don't think so. All right, you got a question or comment on TikTok? Go ahead and post it, and let's get into it. So let's tap the screen, folks. Let's get up to 40,000 likes. We're at 39,000. Get up to 40,000 likes before I start reading these comments. 40,000 likes. Get my likes up. All right. Don't make me play the music like Kevin Samuels. Shout out to Kevin Samuels. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. Y'all don't know who he is. He was a guy who used to do streams online. He passed away like 3 years ago. But if he didn't like the number of likes on his live, he would stop talking. He would start playing background music, and he wouldn't keep talking until they got the likes up. So I will steal a good idea. So I'm stealing this idea from Kevin Samuels. Let's get to 45K, folks. Let's get to 45K. We're at 41K. Let's get to 45K. 45,000 likes, and then I will continue to speak. While I'm waiting for that, I will tell you that if you go to the link in my profile, workonyourgame.lives, get 45,000 likes, folks. You get to this page that will give you all the stuff that I have mentioned here. So my coaching programs, my email lists, my academy, where you get access to our courses that you can take at your own pace, Circle group coaching program, my podcast links, my free books, Dre GPT, the free bot that is 24/7 available for you to talk to and ask any question that is trained on my speech and my thinking. Thank you, everybody, for getting the likes up. Keep getting the likes up, folks, please. So, traditional, I saw you pin the comment, but don't pin the comment till I get to the reading the comments. So whatever you pinned, I didn't see it. So moderators, y'all see any good comments, go ahead and pin it and we'll get into it. Brian, thank you for sharing the live. Nurse LA, thank you for the gifts. Irma, thank you for the gifts as usual. Irma V usually gives me the most gifts. I usually get the most gifts from Irma. So shout out to Irma for the consistency. And shout out to my moderators too for always being here, getting the likes up. Sense Sin said, I love the way you explain these things. Thank you. Let me see. What is this? Where is it? I lost my spot. Okay. So traditional, yes. Thank you for blocking anybody who's trolling the comment. Anybody trolling the comments, they get blocked. Sometimes I tap on somebody and it says they were already blocked, but then the comment's still coming in, so it doesn't make any sense. But y'all, please take care of that. Fairfax Bro said Trump is vile and evil. Okay, if that's how you feel, it's how you feel. I mean, I'm not here to change your mind, but if that's all you got, then you got to come up with something better than that. They've been saying that for 10 years. Do you have any new and unique ideas about Donald Trump besides that? Because that's not new or unique. GR said he wasn't associated with 2025. Yeah, I know he said that. What I'm saying is not everything, but many high-level principles of Project 2025. I did a 3-hour live stream talking about Project 2025 back in last year before the election. Many of the high-level principles of Project 2025 are being instituted. Now, that doesn't mean that Donald Trump was lying, that he wasn't associated. His name wasn't on it, so technically he's not associated. For those who don't understand what Project 2025 was, it's a document produced by a think tank. A think tank is just a group of people who are aligned with a certain political party. They all come together and they get their best ideas together. They put it into a document and then they offer it to a political party, the Democrats or Republicans, and they say, hey, if and when you're in power again, or if you're in power already, here are some suggestions that we, people who are dialed into what's happening, here are some suggestions we have about what you should do. So they're basically, Project 2025 is kind of like a document produced by a consultancy. It's like if you hire a consultant, the consultant looks at your business and everything you're doing, and they say, here are my recommendations. That's what Project 2025 is. That's a normal thing. People do it on the left. They do it on the right. Project 2025 is not some new concept. They always do this. All that happened is Kamala Harris, in her run for president last year, she started using Project 2025 as a boogeyman, a thing to make you afraid as to why you shouldn't vote for Donald Trump, because somebody on her team told her that that was a good idea. It was a bad idea because the things that were in Project 2025 are the very things that people on the political right want. So it was a very bad idea that somebody fed to Kamala Harris and she went and ran with it. And it was part of the reason why she lost. Because when she started throwing out Project 2025, she said, y'all need to go look at Project 2025. This is what Donald Trump's going to do. And that was supposedly supposed to spook everybody. Like, oh, no, we can't do Project 2025. The problem is people went and started looking at Project 2025 and said, this is exactly what we want. All right, this is good. So it actually backfired on her. But again, I've had a lot to say about Kamala Harris. We don't have to beat a dead horse. Y'all can go look up the videos I did about that last year. Big Sam said Trump is just a hammer and a blunt force and a plan laid out by Curtis Yarvin and funded by Peter Thiel. Okay, so Big Sam is going into some theories. We'll just call those theories. But fine, I read your comment. It's on the record. And Big Sam said this is their dark enlightenment come true. Think this is for your benefit. You are mistaken. Okay. GR said he also said he would end the war in the U country within his first 100 days. Yeah, he did say that. I do remember him saying that. The problem is, you kind of can't tell the president of the R country what to do. I think that's pretty clear. And when you try, he will push back just because you tried. Traditional says spamming folks will be blocked today. Spamming folks will be blocked every day. All right, so anybody spamming gets blocked. You don't even have to wait for my call. Just get rid of them. Big Sam said Trump won't veto this bill because it consolidates power to Trump. Not really, because he's only president for another 3 years. So he already has power as the head executive of the country. He already has power. So, of course, he's not going to veto the bill. He wants it. He is the one that has pushed it and said this is what he wants. So why would he even think about vetoing it? That wouldn't even make sense. Please like the live, everybody. We're at 58,000. Please like the live. Courtney, good to see you. Gina Bida, good morning. The OG McCoy, thank you for the follow. Jayoko said his first term he had both houses. Yeah, well, during his first term, there's a whole lot of things that he didn't do that he's doing now. One of them being that he had a whole bunch of people in his cabinet who were not actually trying to help him. And he found that out the hard way. That's why he came in this time. He got all these people that now he knows that they're on his side. So Bondi, Patel, Bongino, what's the other guy's name? RFK. Who's the other person they went hard at in the I can't even remember all these people's names. But he got a bunch of people on his team this time who are loyalists to Trump, which is what your cabinet is supposed to be. They're supposed to be loyal to you. People are saying that like they're doing something wrong by being loyal to the guy who actually gave him a fucking job. You're supposed to be loyal to the person who gave you a job. So he got all these people who are loyal to him as opposed to the first time through. I heard him say this in his interviews that the first time through, he picked a bunch of people who are already vetted because the vetting process is a very thorough process. For For those who don't know what vetting is, that's when the government basically looks into everything about your life. They know what kind of cereal you ate for breakfast 8 years ago on a Tuesday. They look into everything in your life and they decide, is it okay to bring this person into the government or is it not? And what Trump said is during his first term, when he won, there was so much going on that he didn't have time to really pick through people because anyone he chose would have to be vetted. And the vetting process takes a long time. And he wouldn't even be ready to pick the people he wanted if he had to send everybody through vetting. So what he did his first time around for his cabinet is that he picked a lot of people who had already been vetted. In other words, DC veterans. He added a bunch of them to his cabinet, and then a bunch of them ended up going against his very agenda. They were trying to basically cut him off at the knees while he was trying to get things done. They allegedly were on his team, but hurting him at the same time. And he learned from that. And he said, this time around, I'm not going to make that mistake. And you see what he did this time. So that's kind of how it works in DC. And he learned. So that 4-year vacation that he got when Biden won in 2020 gave him time to really plan out his strategy this time. So those of you who are not fans of Trump, the fact that Biden had those 4 years actually is going to make things worse for you because Donald Trump had 4 years to think about exactly what he wanted to do. Now, had he won 2 terms back to back, he wouldn't have had this thinking time to figure things out, as far as I see it. Kathleen said, MAGA is a movement. Yes, it is. That's exactly what I said. OG McCoy said, in my opinion, MAGA is super far right. What does far right even mean? Far right is now pejorative. And those of you who are not fans of Trump or not fans of MAGA, calling something far right has lost its value. Because all it is a pejorative now. And I'm not on the political left or the political right. I'm just saying this as an objective observer. Calling something far right, all that means is that you're trying to make it look bad, but you're not actually explaining why is it far right to be MAGA. MAGA is actually Donald Trump. For those who don't know Donald Trump who he was before he got into politics, Donald Trump was actually more on the left than a lot of people want to give him credit for. Donald Trump was on the left. Donald Trump was much more liberal. I mean, look at the way he's lived. Look at what you know about him. Donald Trump is not a conservative. Donald Trump is a liberal guy who picked up the conservative baton because that would work best for him to win the presidency. But Donald Trump is not a conservative. He's far from a traditional conservative. So to call him far right is actually not true. He's actually the opposite. He's much more in the middle than a lot of people want to give him credit for. Kevin said, and you can't trust any media. No, you can trust some, but you gotta vet them. They got to be vetted. That's the whole thing. Kevin said, I didn't think McCain was good either. He was solid. He was a solid candidate. Obama just went up against a tsunami of Obama. Obama during his first run, that was he would have beat a lot of people. The momentum Obama had in 2008. Kevin said Trump was a registered Democrat all his life. Donald Trump is much more liberal than he is conservative. Gigi said, so have a spine, be voted out, and get another job. Stand up for what's right. Well, there's a couple things we can say about that, Gigi. First of all, not everybody who goes with Trump is actually against him. Some of them go with him because they actually agree with the things that he's saying. I'm not saying everybody disagrees with him. Some of them agree with him. Now, have a spine, be voted out sounds good from the outside looking in. But how many people who are listening to this right now have ever had something happen at your job that you didn't like and you held your tongue and said nothing because you need to keep your job? Everybody who's listening to this has been in that situation. Everybody listening to this has been in that situation. So it sounds good to virtue signal and say that about somebody else, about them giving up their job. Well, when's the last time you did it at your job? Everybody here who's ever had a job has been in a situation where you didn't say something that you wanted to say because you wanted to keep your job or you needed that check. But then when somebody else has the same situation, we say, oh, well, have a spine. Give up your job. Yeah, okay, sounds good. Now, how you going to pay your bills? So there's a lot of things that need to be considered. We can't just isolate it to that one thing anytime there's a challenge, even with politicians. All right, they got bills too. Big Sam said, we have been hearing these things because it's the fact that this does consolidate power and ignores the Constitution. I don't know if it ignores the Constitution. That's a reach. To say it consolidates power, what do you mean by that? When you say consolidate power, articulate what you mean by consolidate power. Sean said, do you think Republicans will win the midterms? when you say win, what do you mean? Because you got two houses, or two sides. You got the Senate and you have the House of Representatives. Right now, Republicans have majority in both. So I think that it's possible they could retain that majority. It's also possible Democrats could get one, but not the other. So what does that become? Does it become balance? What would you call that? Would you call that balance, or would you call that losing? What would you call that? So there's not that many options. Let's get the likes up, folks. Let's get to 70,000 likes. Gigi said, do the right thing, be potentially out, feel good about your morals and scruples, find your next job. Gigi, that sounds so great. The way you package that up, that sounds so perfect. Do the right thing, lose your job, feel good about your morals, and then go find your next job. I wish it was that easy. Is it that easy? From what I hear, people talking about the job market. Now, I'm an entrepreneur. I haven't been in the employment market in a long time. But from what I hear, it ain't that easy. It ain't that easy to replace a good paying job with another good paying job at the snap of a finger all over your morals and scruples. And again, let me be clear again. Let me also reiterate here, Gigi. I know you left this comment before I said this, that just because somebody decides to just take it because Donald Trump does something that they don't want to go with and they decide to align with it anyway, doesn't mean that they're giving up their morals, doesn't mean they're giving up their scrolls, doesn't mean they don't have a spine, doesn't mean they don't have balls. Sometimes in life, again, all of you can agree to this. Sometimes in life, when you're in a business partnership or you're in a relationship or you're in a career situation, you have to go along with something that you don't 100% agree with because you can't always get your way 100% of the time when you're working with other people. It doesn't work that way. And none of you has ever been in a situation when it did. So let's be clear here. All right, let's not grandstand and moralize and wag our fingers at politicians because all of us do it. All of us do it. Any of you who's ever been in a long-term relationship, you have accepted some things that you didn't really want to accept because you're in a relationship and you can't just get your way 100% of the time. All right, that's called, what do you call that? That's like slavery. You can't do that with another person. You can't do it in business. You can't do it in a relationship. You can't do it anywhere. So sometimes a Republican politician might not like some piece of what Trump is doing, some legislation that he's trying to push, but they're like, all right, I'm going to compromise on this one because in the long run, it makes more sense for me to compromise here than it does for me to try to make an issue out of everything. You can't make an issue out of everything. You made an issue out of everything in your relationship, you'd be single. You made an issue out of everything at a job, you'll get fired. And everybody understands this. So let's not moralize over politicians as if we don't do the exact same thing. Daniel said the lawsuits are to manifest goodwill for their next election. Yes, that's part of it. Of course it is. That's part of the theater. Because then they can say, I'm the one who fought Donald Trump and took him to court over ABC. Yes, that's a huge part of what they're doing. But Heck said the left could get more support. They talked about policy instead of feelings. No, I don't think so. Talking about policy requires people to think. But heck, you got to be careful challenging people to think. Challenging the average person to think is a bad idea. It's poor strategy. What the Democrats need to do, they can talk about feelings, but they need to change what are the feelings triggered by. The feelings can't all be about Donald Trump because Donald Trump is on the other side. And he's about to be out in 3 years. So who are you and what are you about? The Democrats have no form right now because their whole form is anti-Trump. So who are you when Trump walks away? You can't use that anymore. You have nothing, and they're going to be starting at zero. The problem is the Republican Party, led by MAGA right now, is not starting at zero because they got their next person already being groomed. His name is Vice President J.D. Vance. Who do Democrats have? And they have no form. That's their problem. They can be about feelings and emotion. Feelings and emotion win elections. When Donald Trump said America first, that's an emotion that he triggered. When he said build a wall, that's an emotion. When he said we said make America great again, that triggered an emotion. Emotions are good when they're used for the right reasons. The Democrats are using their emotions only to go against him, which works until it doesn't. So they can keep using it maybe till 2026, especially after the 2026 elections. Democrats must get clear on what they're about because if people are unclear, they're not going to win. And there's going to be another Republican president. Hearn Don the Don, thank you for the follow. Lockhart, thanks for the follow. Big Sam said the lawsuits are to fight the illegal things done by the... Yeah, well, that's what the politicians said. Yeah, so you just repeated their talking point. That sounds good. LDG, thanks for the follow. Gene said we need term limits. I agree. We talked about that extensively here. A great deal of them are working and reversing a great deal of things he is doing. Well, they're delaying it. They're not reversing it. They're delaying it more than they're reversing it. Diablo, thanks for the follow. S. Breezy said he started the physical wall and never finished it, so that's a lie. That's not a lie. That's not a lie. He started the wall, didn't finish it. I mean, do you know how long that border is? Any of you ever been to Texas? That border is very long. It's not easy to just build a wall there that quickly. And he is getting more funding to keep building the wall. So clearly he's still doing it. It's not a lie. If you say you're going to do something and you do it halfway and don't finish it, that doesn't mean you're lying. It means you just didn't finish it. Gigi said, now he did do that, use a pain point. What are you referring to? Alex said Trump can't run again. Yes, exactly. So that's why the Democrats have a problem right now. They can use this up to 2026. As soon as those elections are over in 2026, win or lose, the Democrats need to pivot and actually start talking about what they're about, because they can't keep talking about Trump. Ray said they will resign like some of them are doing. Yeah, some of them, after they didn't had a career. You see anybody 35 resigning? No, I don't see that. Ash said Vance will easily win. I don't know about easily. It's too early. Too early for me to say. Maggie said Trump is the stupidest president in the world. Okay, what grade are you in? Third or fourth? All right, that's what you came up with? Really, Maggie? That's the comment that you decided to leave here today? Terrell said, why do you hate being black? What does that even mean? Terrell, we're not even talking about race today. Alex said, Democrats better find a moderate if the go far left is over. Yeah, they should not pick somebody who is too progressive, too far left. The problem is the person with the most momentum right now is from the state of California, Governor Newsom, and he is a bit of a progressive. Actually, is he a bit of a progressive? I think he's very progressive. So that's a problem. What I don't understand what's happening in California, I do understand it, but at the same time I don't, is that Trump is sending when I say Trump, I say the administration. They're sending ICE over there to get people who they believe are here illegally. And everybody on the political left is saying, no, they're doing it wrong. And they're fighting to keep people who are here without proper documentation here, even though they don't have proper documentation. How all of a sudden that's their plan? This is a terrible strategy, is that their whole strategy is whatever Trump does, do the opposite. And they're making themselves look ridiculous. If you're here in this country without proper documentation, you should be found and removed, period. If you're in any other country without proper documentation, you know what they do to you? I've known people Americans who've been in other countries without proper documentation. First of all, you go to jail. That's number one. Secondly, they kick your ass out. And third, they tell you can't come back. Or they put a time on how long it's going to be before you come back. I knew a girl in Miami. She was from Canada. She came here on a visa. I guess she forgot that her visa expired. She went to Canada to go visit her family. I guess this girl stupidly forgot that her visa had expired. They looked her up, saw her visa had expired. When she tried to fly back to Miami, they said, you came here and you overstayed your visa. You violated our laws. You can't come back to America for 5 years. All her stuff was in her apartment in Miami. Her roommate had to ship all her stuff back to her in Canada because she got kicked out of the United States for 5 years for violating the documentation. And had she done the same thing in Canada, they would have did the same thing to her. Said, you can't come back. You can't come back here for 10 years. That's the way it works when you violate the laws, folks. So how all of a sudden the political left is now they want to defend people who have violated the policy of immigration. And they're only doing it because Donald Trump said we're going to enforce the policy. So now they're going to go against enforcement of the policy because it makes it look like they're going against Donald Trump. Again, that sounds good until it doesn't. Until people look at you like, okay, who are you now? Now you spend all that time talking about him. He's gone. Now who are you? We don't know. So Kat said tax cuts for billionaires. Okay. All right, fine. Heather said, love the BBB. Excited to see part 2. Marley said, holding a seat in our House or Senate should not be a mission to manipulate masses of people. What do you mean by that, Marley? Give me some context. The OG said, the U.S. people need to realize neither side cares about we, the people. I would say as a general point, I understand where you're coming from. And this is why I continually say, OG McCoy, I don't know if it's your first time hearing me. I continually say this, that no American citizen should put your faith in the politicians of the United States of America, no matter who they are, to fix your problems. You can be a supporter. You can like what they do. You can use their actions for content like I'm doing right now. But you should not depend on them to fix any problem that you have. The government is not here to help you. They're supposed to be. But we all can look at their actions. Interviews over the age of 18, you can see that. And let's not even say 18. You're over the age of 30. You have some understanding of the world. You know the government is not here to serve you. They're supposed to be serving you, but are they actually serving you? Not really. The government only has 2 main jobs. Number one, defend your rights, your human rights, which are given to you by God, not by the government. The government does not grant rights. They defend rights, protect your rights. And number two, stay the hell out the way. That's the only two things the government should be doing. Anything the government does where they're getting in your way or they're trying to federalize something that should be at the state and local level, they are overreaching and they should stay out of your way. There's another reason why Kamala lost, because her whole campaign was about more things being federalized. I'm not a fan of that as a general point. I don't care what party she's representing, whether she's black, white, or any male, female, anything else. Any politician that's talking about let's federalize something, I'm against it. I don't want anything federalized. Why? Because when something's federalized, that means the federal government has more say over it. I want the federal government to have as little say as possible over anything. And everything should be at the state level. And then the local level, like your city or your town or whoever the mayor of the town or what do they call those people? The city council, those folks. Those are the people who should be making the decisions about how you live your life. And then you can move from town to town based on how they do things in that town. You can actually go to the meetings. You can actually talk to those people. You can look them in their face. You can shake their hands. They can know your name at the local level. At the federal level, you're nobody. You're just a number to them. That's for all of you. And I don't care who the president is. Ray said, Rockland, New York is recounting. Recounting what? Ball Wizard said, you're wrong. Trump will not go away in 2028. As far as running for election, he's going away. Now, I don't know what other kind of going away you're talking about. Michael said they don't have any leadership. Who's going to take over? Yeah, that's their problem. They have none. Aurora A. Sewing said, fragile people of color like you. What does that mean? Rudy, thanks for the follow. I'm okay said, Donald Trump can run a third term. Has been done before. I don't see that happening. Shez, one of a kind. Thanks for the follow. Ball Wizard said, I don't think you're living in reality right now. Okay, well, that's a passive aggressive disagreement, but you didn't say what you disagree with. So say what the actual disagreement is. You didn't even have to say all that. Heather said, Trump is the boss. Well, right now he is the boss. Technically he is. Andrew said, we need term limits. If someone has been in office for 2 terms, I vote for their opponents. I agree to the concept of term limits. The problem is there would have to be a law for term limits, and the people who pass the laws are the very people who we're trying to limit. That's the problem. So we got a chicken and egg issue. There is a way to institute term limits without having to go through Congress, and it's a convoluted thing that would have to go through the states, and it's never happened before. So it could happen technically in another way, but it's never occurred, and there would have to be somebody with enough pull to get people excited about it. Here's something Elon Musk can do. Elon Musk wants to do something. He shouldn't start a new political party. What he should do is try to figure out how to institute term limits. He could actually get that done. Y'all want to know how to do it? Because I talked about this months ago. If term limits were to be introduced to the U.S. Congress, how exactly would it happen if it didn't go through Congress? You mentioned in the past something about the states voting on it and a majority. Tell me how that process would work. So if Elon Musk wants something to do, somebody who knows Elon, pass this message over to him. Or Elon, if you're watching me on X right now, here's what you need to do. And the only path, if it doesn't go through Congress, because again, that's a law. So laws have to go through Congress. So imagine Bernie Sanders voting to basically get himself fired from his own job. Imagine AOC voting to get herself fired. Imagine Jasmine Crockett voting to get herself fired from her own job. They're not going to do it. So the only other way is through a constitutional convention called by the states. In other words, all 50 states would have to call a constitutional convention. This is outlined in Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. Here's how it would work. 34 states, which is 2/3. 34 of the 50 states would have to pass resolutions formally applying for a constitutional convention to propose amendments. Then they would have to be basically on the same topic. So in other words, 34 out of the 50 U.S. states would have to decide we want to have a constitutional convention to talk about term limits. So it had to be about the same topic. Now, once those states all submit matching applications, Congress is constitutionally required to call this convention. So do y'all see the problem with this already? Any of you reading through the lines? You're reading between the lines. Here's the problem. Is that the 34 states will have to submit compatible matching applications. Then they have to send it to Congress, and then Congress will be required to call for the convention. Here's the problem. The people in Congress will do everything in their power to not let these applications go through. That's number one. Number two, they would do everything in their power to use any, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Any details, let's just say, any stipulations they can to block this convention from happening, because they see on the damn application, the whole purpose of this convention is to introduce term limits, and they're the ones who have to approve it. Do y'all see how much red tape they can introduce with this anytime they feel like it? Now, let's say the Constitution actually happens. I mean, the convention, excuse me, actually happens. The convention will be held. Each state will send delegates, and the only purpose will be to propose amendments, not to rewrite the Constitution, not to pass laws. The only purpose is to propose amendments. The delegates would debate, then they will vote on amendments, such as term limits for the House and the Senate. Step 3 is any amendments that pass the convention then get sent to all 50 states, and to become law, 3/4 must ratify the amendment. So 34 states have to call the convention. 38 states have to vote for this stuff. And guess who has to vote on it? State legislatures. So y'all see the problem here? Y'all understanding this? The problem here is that the state legislatures would have to vote on getting rid of the federal legislators, or they're not going to vote for this. So 38 out of 50 have to ratify the amendments. Alternatively, Congress could choose to have ratifying conventions in each state, but that method has only been used once. And the chances of this happening are slim and zero. So that's the situation. Let's see where we are in the comments. We're at 89,000 likes, folks. Keep it going. We got 18 minutes here before we wrap this one up. Addicted said, why are they going back on releasing the Epstein files? I'm going to do another live on the Epstein files because the real issue in the Epstein situation is not the files. The real issue is the money. Which everybody knows the phrase follow the money. The Epstein situation is not about who was on the plane and who was at the house. It's not even about the kids. Honestly, it's not that. It's really about the money. And nobody's talking about the money, which is exactly how I'm not going to get into it. I want to get banned off TikTok again, at least not today. Nobody's talking about the money with the Epstein case. You know, Jeff Epstein didn't even go to college. I didn't know that, but I've been hearing some people talking about it. That's the situation. Nurse LA 1979. Good morning. Thank you for the gifts. Rachel Ann. Good morning. Big Sam said, no, why is no one speaking on the end game, what Trump is actually doing? A lot of people speaking on it, or what they claim he's going to do, not the actual end game. Maggie said, Trump lies every day. Every politician lies every day. Why do people only talk about Trump when they say lying every day? Every politician you can name lies every day. Name one who doesn't. Big Sam said, Project 2025 is the playbook, is the work of the Heritage Foundation inspired by Curtis Yarvin. I don't know who Curtis Yarvin is, but the first part is right. Yes, Heritage Foundation made Project 2025. That's true. And again, a lot of foundations make these kind of playbooks. This is not new. Project 2025 is not some new thing. Dime said, release the Epstein files is what they should do. No, they don't need to do that. They need to find out. They need to go and dig into where Epstein got his money from. The guy actually owned an island, and he owned the most expensive penthouse in Manhattan. What you need to find out is where he got his money, because it's a very sketchy backstory as to where that guy got his money. That's what they actually need to find. If you go following after the money, everything else gets found very easily. That's why they're not following the money, and they got everybody excited about the files and whose name was on the flight logs, and that's the show. They got y'all distracted over here where the real stuff is happening over here. It's like a magician. If you know anything about magic, a magician's job is to get you distracted looking over here while he's doing the actual stuff is happening over here. And then it looks like magic. What's the Epstein case is not about the files, it's about the money. And ain't nobody talking about the money. That was exactly how they want it. Freeze says she lost because the electoral votes are for sale. Yeah, I don't know about that. She lost because she wasn't a good candidate. I don't know who's the she you're talking about, Hillary or Clinton or Kamala, excuse me. Hillary was better than Kamala. If it was Hillary against Kamala, Hillary would win. Big Sam said the political right does not want the things in 2025. If you want this, you have not read it. I did a whole live on Project 2025, and I didn't have a problem with it. I'm not on the political right or the left. I read through what was in Project 2025, did 3 hours on it. It was not some a demonic plot. So Big Sam is still talking about this Curtis person. He said, these are not theories, these are facts. Okay, well, facts don't matter. So if that's what you're building your whole case on, then you should probably choose a different route. Maggie said, Trump is the worst president ever in history. Okay, you're entitled to that opinion. Gambino said his first term was learning the game. Pretty much. George said, how does it feel you are helping fascists? George, is that the best you can come up with? Like, you left a comment here. Is that the best thing you can come up with, really? It's been 10 years people have been throwing that term out there. It's lost its value. Calling someone a fascist doesn't mean anything anymore. What have y'all been doing for the last 10 years? Dime said, do you realize that Trump's working against all the interests of the people of color? Such as what? I just said, Dime, I don't know if you heard me, but I just said this, that I don't care what color you are or what age you are. If you are thinking that your interests are served by or protected by or need to be furthered by the United States government, you're a fucking fool. You are putting yourself in a position to lose. I don't give a damn what interests people of color allegedly have for the government. If you're putting it on the government to get it done, you're an idiot. So if you're a person of color listening to this right now and you think that the United States government, whether that be Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or anybody else you can name, they're supposed to do things to to further your personal interests, you are an idiot. You are a fool. And I don't know how you reached this age that you are, whether you're 27, 47, or 77, thinking that the United States government is going to further your interests. Who sold you that bill of goods? They sold you a hill of beans. They sold you magic beans. Remember the story Jack and the Beanstalk? All right, some of you bought some magic beans from the government that y'all think that voting for somebody is going to solve your problems or further your interests. No, the only person who's going to do that is the person in the mirror. So any of you have been sold this idea that the government is going to do it for you. Again, where have you been? Do you still believe in the Easter Bunny? So Playtime says, so being loyal is right when doing wrong is right. The Straw Man of the Day by Playtime. So congratulations to Playtime for the Straw Man of the Day. Said being loyal is right when doing wrong is right. And he started with the word so. So is often a tell for a straw man, which is when someone takes something that you said, they rephrase it into something that you didn't say, then they represent it to you as if they're refuting what you said when it's actually not what you said. They make a straw version of your comment. That's hence the name straw man. Then they beat up the straw man, and then they say they won the fight. Now, all you did was beat up a straw man. You didn't beat up. It's like hitting a punching bag and saying you won the fight. No, you didn't do that. So that's not what I said. I said Trump. People on the political right will align with something that Donald Trump did or said because sometimes you must compromise when you work a professional job. All of you have done it before. You do it in your relationships as well. And you calling it wrong does not mean that what they did is actually wrong. Just because you said it's wrong does not mean it's actually wrong. It just means you disagree with it. Now, if you say I disagree with something that they did, then that's a logical frame. If you say what they did is wrong, then you're moralizing because you're saying that your way is good and their way is bad, according to who? And do you have the power to enforce that? Andrew said, do you want loyalty or do you want quality? That's called a false binary. This is another logical fallacy, what Andrew said here. Loyalty or quality, as if you have to pick one. You can be loyal and have quality. You also be disloyal and have low quality. So it's a false binary when someone offers you two options as if those are the only two choices that you have. Big Sam said, Trump simply wants loyalists. Anybody in power wants people who are loyal to them and people who are skilled enough who can be loyal, but also push back enough to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we shouldn't do this. But nobody hires somebody that they personally don't like. So there's a binary for you right there. Brian, thank you for the share. Gigi said, well, his policies and what he stands for right now says otherwise. Well, according to who? According to people who don't like him? Okay, so in other news, the sky is blue. All right, so you said Donald Trump's policies and what he stands for says otherwise, and you're already not a fan of his. So, I mean, what are you really saying when you say that? I don't think you're lying, Gigi, but are you really making a statement when it's already clear you don't like him? It doesn't have as much value. See, this is the problem when people attach themselves to political parties. When you say something about the opponent, well, we already know why you're saying it. You're incentivized to say that. Doesn't mean you're telling a lie, but at the same time, it doesn't carry much weight. Plausible Table said he was liberal only because he was in New York and been outcasted by the elite. Well, he was one of the elite in one way, in many ways. Politically, maybe outcasted, but in terms of everyday people, he was one of them. I mean, you know his reputation before he came out. He was pretty well known. Cody Down, our CEO, said, I love your library. Thank you. High class white trash said he's very much in the middle. The fact that Democrats don't recognize it shows how extreme they are. Pretty much, I agree. Plausible said, say one liberal policy Trump had before he was president. Well, people who are not president don't have policies. So what are you talking about? Randall said, fiscally, definitely more of a liberal. And how many different wives has Trump had? That ain't a conservative way of living. He doesn't live conservatively. Is Donald Trump a conservative person? I'm not talking politically. Is he a conservative person? No, he's not. Gambino said, nothing ever gets done for black people anyway. We just figure it out. Okay, that's a better approach than saying that the government is going against our interests. I'd rather you say something like that. Everybody figures it out, Gambino. White people figure it out too. Any white people listening to this, do you think the government does things for you? Let's just answer that question. Because a lot of black people have this idea that the government just does stuff for white people, but it doesn't do anything for black people. I don't think a lot of white people agree with that. Well, white people, you tell me. Does the government do things for you? Yes or no? Do you depend on the government? Yes or no? A lot of black people seem to think that the government just does all this stuff to help white people. I don't think that's true. But I'm not white, so let me let the white people speak. Alexander said, this is a pro-Republican or pro-Democrat live. Good morning, y'all from Philly. Alexandra is neither one. It is pro-objectivity and pro-logic, Alexandra. It's a somewhat of a good question because you allowed me to say that, but at the same time, this is a false binary where you're limiting me to two options. Why do I have to be pro-Republican or pro-Democrat? I'm pro neither. I am pro the individual person handling their own business. That's what I'm pro. That's an option you didn't give me. And you're from Philly? Shout out to Philly. What part of Philly are you from, Alexandra? I am from Mount Airy. That's my hometown. I'm in South Florida now, but I'm from Mount Airy. Gigi said, that's not what their job requires. They're the voice of the people. Okay. Dime said, it's people like you that have enabled Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. Right? How have I enabled Donald Trump? Please explain how I've enabled Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. A movement is a movement. One person can't enable a movement, Dime. So your statement is false in its construction. Terry said, do you support Trump's agenda? What's his agenda? Tell me what agenda you're referring to, then I can answer your question. Stay True said, thank you for being real and fair to both sides. You're welcome. Traditional said, that's right. We all did that to keep our job. Everybody's done it. No one here has never done that. So everyone here all of a sudden is a rebel without a cause, right? You just put yourself out there and say anything you're thinking every single time something happens. Any of you did that, you would have no friends, no job, and you would be single. Every single one of you. So nobody does that. Currently, Devo said millionaires in Congress don't need their job. Oh, yeah, they do, because they want to keep that money coming in. Having $1 million is one thing. Continually having millions coming in is a whole different thing. And that access is worth something. Barvet, thank you for the follow. Gambino said, fighting will only mean nothing still won't get done. Exactly. So if the Democrats take over in 2026, all it's going to be is a whole lot of political posturing between the executive branch and Congress, and nothing's going to get done. And the people y'all are going to be the one who gets screwed, especially those of you depending on the government for something. People who are going to get screwed the most in 2026 through 2028 are the everyday people who are depending on the government if the Democrats take over. If they take over Congress. Big Sam said he is firing civil servants and people that will block what he is doing and replace them with loyalists. So, what would you do? Big Sam, if you were president, would you do that? I would do it. If I was president, I would fire anybody who is blocking me from doing what I want to do, and I'll replace them with people who will help me do what I want to do. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the reason he's in power. He was chosen by the people to do this. That's exactly what I would do. What would you do, Sam? You would keep people working there who are going to block you from doing what you want to do? Why would you do that? And then what's going to happen is the people who voted for you are going to be mad at you because they're like, yo, we voted for you to do A, B, C. You didn't do it. Why didn't you do it? And you say, oh, well, these people were blocking me. Mofo, you the president. Why didn't you get them out the way? So you just stood there and let people with less power than you stop you from doing what you want to do. Then you're an ineffective leader, which means you never should have been a leader in the first place. So what you're saying sounds good, but it doesn't actually logically make sense. Adam Salazar said, recommend me a book, bro. Haven't read a book in about a year. Last book I read was Danny Trejo. I don't know who Danny Trejo is. Adam, what are you working on right now in your life? What's your situation? Where are you trying to go? Then I can recommend you a book. OG said he ran on releasing Epstein files and want to see handcuffs on those people who want justice done. He didn't run on that. He ran on making America great again. Epstein files was a small bullet point in his list. That wasn't the main thing he ran on. Most people really don't care. Everybody cares now because everyone's talking about it. But do people really care about the Epstein files? And let's say the Epstein files come out and there's a bunch of names in there. Okay, now what? How is that changing anybody's life? The biggest thing about the Epstein files is not the names, it's the money. Nobody's talking about the money. And everybody's all excited about the names when y'all really need to be looking at the money. Where'd the money come from? You go follow the money, you'll get all the names very easily. You notice that nobody's talking about the money at all. Marley said you pick your battles. That's right. O Dog over on YouTube said Project 2025 doesn't go far enough. They need to repeal civil rights, 16th Amendment, 19th, bring back the line item veto, and abolish the Fed. So O Dog with a list here said black people figure out what? In words, can't figure out where's Waldo. What a joke. Yeah, well, that's what the comment said. So I can only go off. I'm only reading what they say. O Dog. Currently, Devo said former congressman can sign a book deal. Work for a lobbyist, firms paying well over 6 figures. You don't know how DC works. Yes, of course you could do that. But when you're connected, how's a former congressman get a book deal? Because you are a congressman. How do you know lobbyists? Because you're a congressperson. So why would you not just stretch that out as long as you can until you can't do it anymore? So yes, it sounds good to say just quit and then you could go do all this stuff for business. But the pipeline that leads to the business is what? Being in Congress. That's the whole point. I did a whole live stream on this already. High Class said it is that easy. I've been fired 50 times for standing my ground. Healthcare is ruthless. I don't believe you. That sounds good. I don't believe you. High Class said that makes sense. I'm single too. Now that part I believe. Bruce said morals don't show up on a resume. Yeah, that's cope. Bruce, what you just said, that's a rationalization. It sounds good. Yeah, everybody thinks they have morals. Go walk around the street, stop 100 people on the street, say, do you have morals? Everybody's going to say yes. But then you ask somebody, do you know anyone who doesn't have morals? Everybody says yes. So how is that possible? Everyone is moralistically upstanding when they're talking about somebody else. Now, this all sounds great, these things that y'all are saying in the comments. Alexander says, is this a pro-Trump live? I already answered that question. Is it pro-logic and objectivity live? And a lot of people seem to have a hard time accepting that I'm not leaning to one side or the other, because they need people to lean to one side or the other so you can categorize me or categorize anything that I said. Kathleen said the Democrats went too far left. Some of them have, not all of them, but some of them have. Purging dissenters, he sports primary challenges against Republicans who oppose him. That's what he's supposed to do. Why not? What's the point of having muscle if you don't flex? Jiminy said Dems on the wrong side of too many 80-20 issues. That is true. As a party, they are. But Heck said Trump got blocked for finishing the wall, then Biden sold the materials. Okay, that's on the record. Let's see. Gigi said he used the pain point referring to "Make America Great Again." Well, depending on how you interpret the term, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of campaign slogans, is that they should be open to interpretation. So when Barack Obama said "Yes, we can," well, yes, we can. What? He didn't tell you. He let you fill in the blanks with your own thoughts. That's the beauty of the slogan. Same thing with Trump. When he said "Make America Great Again," well, what's again? Again, what is he referring to? This is what people who don't like Trump, they always challenge that point and say, "Well, when was America great? Tell me the period when America was great." The good thing about the statement is that it's open to interpretation. You can pick any time period you want. So it's a great idea. And it could be looked at as a pain point. It also could be looked at as a positive point. Like, hey, America was great 30 years ago. Let's go back to that. Or America was terrible now. America's terrible now, so we need to go backwards and make it great. So again, it's open to interpretation. A good influencer is good at doing that. Saying things that are open to interpretation to let everybody else fill in the gaps with their own thoughts. Gigi said, I was only agreeing with you to that fact. All right, fair enough. I get it. Plausible said, you are talking in circles saying nothing. If you really thought that, you would have just left the live. Plausible Table, I don't believe you. If you really think I'm talking in circles and saying nothing, why are you still listening? Why would you listen to somebody say nothing? Alexandra said, I love what Trump has done so far and in such a short period of time. Why do you keep putting Trump in all capital letters? Daddy said, Newsom is not progressive. All right, what is he? The voice of civil discourse said they're going at the people with proper documentation and doing it the right way. I don't know about that. And if they go after them, what are they going to get when they catch them? Gigi said, what's the process to find undocumented immigrants? Well, you probably had to ask Tom Homan that question. One thing they do is they take tips. So you can call them and say, hey, this person, go get them. And they'll come get them. Angie said that I can't go to another country and vote without being a citizen. Also true. Tall Man said, I'm a Trump supporter from the beginning, but I think he went too far with the Gulf of America. That's where you think he went too far, the Gulf of America? Who cares about the Gulf of America? Centurion said, you choose to pick the easy comments, the ones that comply to your political needs. What political needs? I don't have any political needs. My only political need is for the government to stay out my business. So what political need is that? What are you even talking about? And I'm reading every comment that I can see. I'm going to run out of time here, but I'm reading as many as I can. Alexander said, first term voted Biden, hated what he did, voted Trump in 2024. So glad I did. Fair enough. Dave said, who built the cages in Texas? I don't know. You tell me. What cages? Let's see. No, I don't have that much time left. So a few more, folks, then we'll wrap it up. Nurse said, the government takes my money and limits growth just like everyone else. I don't know about the limit growth, but they definitely take everybody's money, especially if you get a paycheck. They're taking everything. OG said, imagine thinking the government wants to help us. Well, the government as an entity is designed to help those who can't help themselves. That's what the government actually does. Helps the helpless. It doesn't help people who can help themselves. Motivation said the government helps blacks more than whites. I get where you're going with that, Motivation Maestro, but I don't think most black people would agree with you. I understand what you're saying, but most black people would not agree with that statement. Unsaid said, I like to know what is Trump's agenda. Okay, go listen to his campaign speeches. He told you. And unlike a lot of politicians, he's doing exactly what he told you he was going to do. Crofts said, you are great. Oh my God, common sense. Thank you. Grin Barrett said, 23 years in the military, really realized the government is not one to trust. Fair enough. I think a lot of people have come to that conclusion. Dakota said, like Patrick Ewing said, I make a lot of money, but I spend a lot of money. Yeah, exactly. So people in government, they need to keep that job so they keep the money coming in. It ain't as easy as I'll just quit and you can go do consulting deals. Yeah, as long as your name is hot, and then 10 years from now you ain't nobody. You ain't still getting consulting deals. Jordan said, as a white person, other than the mail and the local municipal government does nothing for me. It's not supposed to. Jordan, I'm assuming you have a job and you make your own money. The government not supposed to do anything for you. And that applies to everybody, no matter what color you are. Big Sam said, no, I would never hire yes men. I will hire great people that would maintain checks and balances. Well, this is a false binary and a straw man. Just because someone is going along with Trump's agenda does not mean they're a yes man. It just means maybe they already agree with him. That's why I picked him in the first place. It doesn't make you a yes man. Yes man is a pejorative. And you will hire great people that would maintain checks and balances. Yeah, that sounds good from the outside looking in. That sounds very good. Sounds very good and noble and morally upstanding, Big Sam. And then let's put you in power and see if you actually do it. Now, the problem is you would never get in power using these straw men and false binaries. Gambino said anyone would want loyal people around them in business and life. Exactly. Right after that. And everybody knows that. Again, some people are Facebook moralists. Miley said, represented Philly well, class and sense. Thank you. Crofts said, please run for an office. We need you. Run for an office and deal with this shit? No. No. Founder said, hiring Laura, this is one thing, but qualified lawyers is another that many of his appointments are. Okay, so what? Why are people saying it's like it's some kind of bad thing? He's the one in power. He got chosen by the people to pick who he wanted to pick. He picks the people he wants to pick and you don't like it, you should have voted against him. And if you did vote against him and he won anyway, majority rules. All right, welcome to life. What is everybody complaining about? Taco said, America being great is subjective. Exactly. That's why it was a great slogan, because you can interpret it any way that you want. Kathleen said, Epstein files go deeper than politicians or celebrities. It's not the files, it's the money. If the files you're talking about is the money, that's what people need to be talking about with Epstein. I'm going to do another live about Epstein in a few days, and we'll talk about the money, because that's actually the issue. Issue has nothing to do with the flight logs and who visited the island. That's play. The one said, are you okay with Project 25? I did a whole live stream on Project 25. I spent 3 hours going through it. So go watch that live to get my full answer on the question. It's on my YouTube channel. Jesse said, why won't you talk about the kids in the Epstein case? We don't know who they are, Jesse. What do you want me to talk about? Most of them, we don't know who they are. Their identities are protected so that they are not re-traumatized by having their experiences rehashed. So what would you like me to do? And if I did know who they were, why would I talk about it? What do I gain from talking about it? A few more comments, folks, then we'll wrap this up. There's a lot of comments here today. I can't read all these, so if I missed your comment, nothing personal. Dean said, it doesn't matter who you voted for. Our president's success and American success show patriotism. I agree with this 100%. If Kamala had won, I wasn't a fan of Kamala. I didn't think she was a strong candidate. But had she won, then I would want her to be successful in her job because I still live in America. So why would I want the president of America to fail when I live in America? That makes no sense. But some people are so emotionally engaged in politics that you want the person in charge of the country to fail while you still live here. So you want to cut off your nose to spite your face. Madison Benson, thanks for the follow. Carl said, I'm following you. Keep up the good work. Thank you. AQ Tomorrow, thanks for the follow. Gambino says, as long as the government stays out of my business, I'm good. Yes, that's their only job. Only job of the government is to stay out of your business, and if needed, they protect your rights. So if somebody's violating your rights, you can call on the government to help you, usually the cops. But other than that, I don't need the government bothering me at all. I don't even want to hear from the government. Daryl H.D. Thomas said, keep doing your thing. Thank you. Richard says, does the man ever sleep? Got to say he's busy. Who are you talking about, Trump? Yeah, he probably doesn't sleep a lot. He has a lot of energy for somebody who's, 70, 80 years old? Cosmically Poor said, I don't mean you exist in a vacuum. Would you say you lean more right of center? That's what I've been told, Cosmically Poor. I don't say I lean anywhere. I just lean towards objectivity and logic. And if it happens to be something positive about the left or the right, so be it. I have no political affiliation. So if I say something that people on the left or the right either like or don't like, I really don't give a damn. I've never been paid $1 by either political party. And if I have, please tell me where they sent the money because I didn't get it. I didn't cash the check. So I've had people say that I appear to be a little bit right. I'm more center, but I lean a little bit to the right. Fine. If that's how people see it, I don't mind. But I have no political label. So I just don't want any labels put on me. My only affiliation is to people handling your own business, taking care of your own shit, performing and producing results for yourself and your family and your community. That's my affiliation. Now, what political party is that? I don't think it's any of them. So that's the zip code in which I exist, just so all of you understand. I have no affinity or affiliation to any politics. I'm not a fan of the government in general. They're slow, they're inefficient, they use money ineffectively, and we are kind of stuck with this system unless there's complete anarchy in America, which would mean all of you need to use your Second Amendment rights, if you get what I'm saying. I don't think most of you want that, so we're stuck with this, at least for now. Or unless we get invaded by somebody. Those are only two ways this changes, just so all of you understand. Only two ways this changes, either we get invaded or there is internal anarchy. And I mean real anarchy, like blood and death anarchy. So unless you want that, we're stuck with this system. I suggest you opt out and stop waiting on the government to do anything for you. I do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Barvet 3, answering your question. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. The OG McCoy said, I only hear from the government on payday and tax day. Exactly. And you don't even hear from them. They just take your money. You hear from them because you look at your pay stub and you're like, damn. That's how you hear from them. They just take money out of your pocket. O-Dog said Newsom is regressive. Okay, so he's regressive. He's not progressive. Okay. Didn't the tariffs bring in $109 billion surplus in June? Yes, it did. I heard about that. And nobody's talking about that, by the way. Donald Trump's tariffs gave the government an actual budget surplus in the month of June. Nobody talking about that. Lynn, thank you for the goats. I see you putting those goats in there. Thank you, Lynn. A couple more comments, folks. Y'all leaving some good comments. That's the reason why I'm still going. We're in overtime right now. Daryl said Trump did what he said he was going to do, like cutting Medicaid. He didn't say that, and he didn't do it. A couple more comments, folks. I don't have enough time to read these all. Kevin said Democrats and Republicans always agree on a pay raise for themselves. That's also true. Tiny Space Roadie, thanks for the follow. Lonell said the government is not supposed to do anything for you. Why do we need them? Well, we don't. Generally, we don't need them. But if we destroy the government completely, I think there'd be some level of anarchy here. And I don't think most people are ready for anarchy. Anarchy means, again, fighting, Second Amendment, blood and death. So y'all ready for that? Because that's what would happen. If you're ready for that, then okay. But if you're not, what's your grandma going to do? What are your kids going to do? What's the women in your life going to do? And if y'all ain't ready for that, you be careful what you ask for. Donald said, thank you for your common sense answers. You're welcome. Cosmically said, accepts that Trump doesn't also just pick the best choice. It's too tempting. Well, what's the best choice? Who's the judge of the best choice? I would say is the person making the choice. So if Donald Trump picks somebody and he thinks they're the best choice, but somebody else thinks they're not, you think they're not the best choice. So what? Who has more say, him or you? So this is how I see it. Founders say the majority rules isn't exactly how elections work. Exactly how they work? No, okay. The majority of electoral votes, and you have to have a certain majority to win. I mean, you get the point of what I'm saying here. Are you trying to split hairs? Thank you for the follows, Anne Marie, Vanessa sells Vegas. Shout out to Vegas. Vegas would be a nice place to live based on the housing market. I don't like dry air, though. And I really don't like the desert. But the housing market was good. I do like the Strip. I would go to the Strip maybe once a week. Probably not. Justin Baca, thank you for the follow. The Indocator said, can you explain what you don't like about Kamala's policies? It wasn't so much about her policies, because she didn't have any policies because she was never president. So it was ideas, her theories. We'll call them theories. It's not really policies until you actually do it. One thing I didn't like about Kamala is that, I'll give you two. Number one is that she was preaching things that will become more federalized. She was pushing for more federalization of more things. I'm not a fan of federalization of things because that means the government has more power and more overreach over everyday people. I'm not a fan of that concept in general. Donald Trump, on the other hand, drew a clear line between him and Kamala by saying he wanted to unfederalize things and give the power more to the states. I'm more about consolidating power into smaller boxes instead of bigger boxes. Federalized means the federal government decides something and everybody has to abide by it. Taking the power out of the federal hands means each state gets to make their own decision. So if I don't like what's going on in America on a federalized point, I'm stuck here unless I leave America. If I don't like what the government is doing in the state of Florida where I live, okay, I'll move to Nebraska. I don't like Nebraska, I'll move to Ohio. I don't like Ohio, I'll move to Minnesota. I don't like Minnesota, I'll move to Nevada. I have 50 different choices if things are state level. If things are federal level, I have one choice: be here or leave. So I don't like anything being more federal. And it seems that the political left is more about federalizing things and expanding the reach of government, whereas the political right is more about non-federalizing things and expanding the reach of local governments so that us, the everyday person, we the people, we get to vote in our local elections, our state level and local elections, and we get to choose our leaders that we want. Again, people we can see, of doing that than you do look in the eyes of some congressperson or some senator. So that's what I didn't like about Kamala, number one. And number two thing, that I was not a fan of Kamala as a candidate because she did not go through the gauntlet and beat all the opponents the way that everybody else had to. Joe Biden had to go through the gauntlet and win a primary. Donald Trump had to win a primary. Hillary had to win a primary. Obama won a primary. George W. Bush won a primary. Kamala did not win a primary. So she didn't earn her nomination, as far as I'm concerned. So hopefully that answers your question. And if I get kicked off of TikTok, go to my LinkedIn or my YouTube. I mean, not LinkedIn, Instagram, or YouTube. But I've said that 100 times already. So Kevin said, you make too much sense for the average Joe. LOL. Tiny Space said, I love your F your feelings approach. I really enjoyed this live. Well, thank you. You're welcome. Lynn, thank you for the goats. Lynn. Turbine said, we don't want that, but we're ready for that. Well, speak for yourself. You're ready for it. I don't think everybody's ready for it. Brown Skin Queen, thank you for the rose. I don't think everybody's ready for anarchy. Some people are ready. I say maybe about 15% of the population is ready for anarchy. The other 85% does not want anarchy because a lot of people are not going to survive. Even those who are ready ain't going to survive. Daryl said he wasn't touching Medicaid, but yet what does it say in the bill? Well, let's see what actually happens is what we need to see. B&E said, yes, we're ready. Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. I don't think everybody's ready. Red Wolf, thank you. BSR said, do you have any thoughts about the rift between Trump and Elon? Yeah, I did a whole live on it like 2 weeks ago. I usually do current events, folks. So when something happens, I usually talk about it within the next couple of days. So anything that happened 2 weeks ago, I probably did a live on it 2 weeks ago. Kathleen says, Kamala wanted big government. Yes, she did. I mean, she comes from the political left. And the thing about Kamala is that I don't think she had a bunch of her. I think what Kamala was basically was giving cues by the Democratic Party. This is what you're going to be about. And she went with it. I don't think she came up like, this is what I'm about. Me, Kamala, I'm about this. And I'm going to come all the way up through the ranks on this platform. That's what Donald Trump did. And America said, we want that. That's why he won. Kamala didn't do that. Kamala came up in the primaries in 2019, before 2020, before they started voting. She came up and said, this is what I'm about. And the Democratic voters said, no, we don't want that. This is when there was still a bunch of people running. Tulsi was running. Biden was running. It was a bunch of people still running in the Democratic Party. Kamala came with her agenda, her theories, and the Democratic voters rejected her. Everybody knows this. This is a complete, you want to talk about facts? There's a fact for you right there. That one is indisputable. So I would say she's a good candidate. If she went through the gauntlet and beat everybody, I say, okay, the Democratic voters said they like this. So let me hear what she has to say. That's the way I would look at it. When Joe Biden ran, okay, the Democratic voters said, okay, we like this guy. Okay, let's hear what he got to say. But he went through the gauntlet. I respect anybody who goes through the gauntlet. I don't even have to be a fan of you. If you go through the gauntlet and you beat everybody else who wants the nomination and you win and you get the nomination, you got to respect that. Joe Biden won the nomination. Barack Obama won the nomination. Hillary Clinton won a nomination. Kamala did not do that. Michael said, I don't think you know anything about what you're talking about. Okay. You're entitled to that opinion. Cosmically says, speaking of Vegas, the BBB is changing deductions on gambling. Only 90% of losses can be deducted. Okay. That's new. The one and only said, explain why the national debt is going up under Trump. You can't because you are BS. Well, that's called a Socratic trap. What the one and only just did here is called the Socratic trap, is when you ask someone a question that is not actually the topic that they're talking about and is designed as a gotcha. So you ask them a question that you think they can't answer or that they'll get stuck on, and then that's a way of proving that they don't know what they're talking about, even though it's not even the topic. So you throwing out a random question that I am not even going to address is not a way of discrediting me. It's a proof of you using the Socratic trap, which is often what people use when they are emotionally triggered or they hear something that they disagree with. So they want to try to discredit the speaker instead of actually addressing the actual points that the speaker has made. So nice try. Results in a, let's see. Jenny says she was on the ticket with Biden, so that makes her a candidate. Yes, I understand how she became a candidate, Jenny, but you also understand what I said, do you not? So let's not split hairs here. You know exactly what I said. Yes, I know why she got the candidacy. Kelly said, I'm definitely not ready. Yeah, most people are not ready. Synergy said, ready or not, anarchy will happen eventually. I agree with you. You're right. It will. Brown Skin Queen said, you talking that good spit? Switch the P, perfect logic, you should run. No, I ain't running for a damn thing. Why would I do that? I gain nothing from getting involved in politics. And they got to vet me, which means they're going to go through my whole life with a fine-tooth comb. I prefer not. Lady said the VP gets picked by the president, not the people. Yeah, of course, we know that. Again, why are y'all trying to defend Kamala? Really? It's July 2025. Y'all haven't let this go yet? Everybody heard, I think, compendiously explained my issue with Kamala, the candidate. I know that she got it because Biden dropped out. I understand. And I think all of you understand that I understand. Why I still didn't respect her as a candidate is because she didn't go through the gauntlet. And if you don't go through the gauntlet, we don't know how good you actually are. It's kind of like somebody getting hired for vice president of a company and they didn't have to work their way up because you're the president's son. You didn't earn your spot. You didn't work your way up. Now, you might still be good, but we don't know because you just got put in the spot that you didn't have to earn. Now, if you come up through the ranks, you start working in the mailroom, then you become the vice president of the company. Now we know that you earned it. Everybody has to respect that. But if you didn't have to earn it, we don't know. The jury is out on you. So the jury is out on Kamala. But here's the good news for all you Kamala fans, all you Kamala truthers out there. 2028 is coming up in 3 years. All she got to do is run again. Question, is she going to win? Is Kamala going to win the nomination in 2028? Put a yes or a no in the comments. She can go through the gauntlet. She has these years of seasoning of being a VP. She already went through it once and failed. She was a VP. She did a whole campaign. Is she going to win in 2028? All you Kamala supporters, is she going to win in 2028? Since some of you want to defend her now, is she going to go through the gauntlet and win the nomination in 2028? I highly doubt it. But if I'm wrong, somebody tell me. Somebody go on the record right now in 2025, Kamala's going to win in 2028. I would love to hear from you. I want to know who believes this. So I ain't seen a yes answer yet. Nobody said yes. A few of you were defending her. What happened? Those of you who were defending Kamala, what happened? Y'all shy now? Nobody said yes. So, and she left the indicator is pre. This is the last one I'm gonna address. And it's a great point. This whole thing about Kamala was same thing with Hillary, like a woman, right? A woman is running. A woman can be in power. A black woman can be in power. Do y'all remember what happened The night that Donald Trump won, when it was clear that Donald Trump won, Kamala Harris did an event. It was an election night event at what school she go to? Was it Hampton or Howard? Whatever school she went to, Howard, right? So Kamala Harris went to Howard. I don't know if y'all know about this. The night of the election that Donald Trump wins, Kamala has clearly lost. She had an event at Howard. There's an HBCU that she went to and she pledged and she was in a sorority and this proves that she's black. Y'all remember all that? All these people are there to support Kamala and hopefully celebrate her winning. When it was clear that she lost, she called Donald Trump. This is not on camera. She called Donald Trump and conceded and congratulated him on winning. And her audience, her fans, are standing outside waiting for Kamala to come out and talk. Has any of you ever seen an election campaign event? If somebody loses, they come out, they speak to their fans and say, hey, thanks for supporting. We didn't win. It didn't work out. People get sad. People cry. And the person who lost says, hey, our fight is not over. We're going to keep going. We're going to be stronger in the future, et cetera. You know, the same things they say when they lose. Kamala did not come out on the stage. You know who came out on the stage? Anybody know what happened? You don't know what happened that night? Because anybody who saw that, do y'all know what happened that night? The Indocator brought it up. But any of you know what happened at Kamala's event at Howard University when it was clear she had lost the election the night of the election? Do y'all know what happened when she didn't come on the stage? Because something did get said. Do y'all know what happened? Anybody know the answer to this question? I'll answer it. Jenny said, you should be ashamed of yourself putting down your own people. Said, who did I put down, Jenny? I didn't put anybody down. Get out of here with that appeal to emotion nonsense. This is appeal to emotion nonsense. This is not kindergarten. So does anybody know what happened? I'm waiting for somebody to tell me what happened. Nobody knows what happened? Here's what happened. A man came out on the stage and spoke on behalf of Kamala Harris that night. Gambino said she didn't come out. She was emotionally drained. FOH. She wasn't emotionally drained. She showed what happens. I'm going to tell y'all what this was. I'm going to tell y'all what happens. She showed what happens when you try to put a woman in charge of a thing like that. It's easy to be in charge when everything's working. There's a whole different thing to be in charge when it's not working. And when things stopped working, the first thing Kamala did was send a man to speak for her. That is an absolute fact. Now, you say I'm putting her down. I'm putting down my own people. That happened. That's an absolute fact. TikTok, don't ban me for that. That's a fact. That's what happened. As soon as things weren't working, she sent a man to go speak for her. Some man came out there, a black man. I don't know who this guy was. I think he was maybe the head of her campaign or something. He came out and said, Kamala didn't win. Unfortunately, we didn't win. She's not going to be speaking tonight. She will speak tomorrow. And he walked off the stage and everybody went home. That happened at her event on the night of the election. As soon as things stopped working, she sent a man out there to speak for her. Now, had she won, would she have sent a man out there to speak for her? No. Had she won, she would have been out there all high and mighty, right? The last thing I'm going to say here, this is the reason why you don't put women in charge, because a woman can be in charge when it's working. Let things start going bad. What does a woman do? She goes and sends a man to work for her. Anyway, I'm going to end it right on that note. Ladies and gentlemen, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern is when I do these lives. If you like this one, come back tomorrow. If you hated this one, come back tomorrow. If you're not sure, come back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. Click the link in my profile. Get access to my free Dre GPT chatbot, my coaching programs, my books. Everything you can get for free is at the link in my profile. And if I'm suspended tomorrow because of what I just said, find me on Instagram and YouTube. Everybody have a great day. We out. Old Dog said, anarchy isn't good at all. Violent communities, which are many. Yeah, exactly. People don't want that. They think they want it till it actually happens.